I never get pussy. I never got any pussy.
After this, he loved a woman who dwelt in the valley of Sorek, and she was called Delilah. And the princes of the Philistines came to her and said, Deceive him, and learn of him wherein his great strength lieth, and how we may be able to overcome him, to bind and afflict him. Which if thou shalt do, we will give thee every one of us 1100 pieces of silver. And Delilah said to Samson, Tell me, I beseech thee, wherein thy greatest strength lieth, and what is it, wherewith if thou wert bound thou couldst not break loose? And Samson answered her, If I shall be bound with 7 cords made of sinews not yet dry, but still moist, I shall be weak like other men. And the princes of the Philistines brought unto her 7 cords, such as he spoke of, with which she bound him, men lying privately in wait with her, and in the chamber expecting the event of the thing. And she cried out to him, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson! And he broke the bands, as a man would break a thread of tow twined with spittle, when it smelleth the fire. So it was not known wherein his strength lay. And Delilah said to him, Behold, thou hast mocked me, and hast told me a false thing. But now at least tell me wherewith thou mayest be bound. And he answered her, If I shall be bound with new ropes that were never in work, I shall be weak, and like other men. Delilah bound him again with these, and cried out, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson! There being an ambush prepared for him in the chamber. But he broke the bands like threads of webs. And Delilah said to him again, How long dost thou deceive me, and tell me lies? Shew me wherewith thou mayest be bound. And Samson answered her, If thou plattest the 7 locks of my hair with a lace, and tying them round about a nail fastenest it into the ground, I shall be weak. And when Delilah had done this, she said to him, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson. And awaking out of his sleep, he drew out the nail with the hairs and the lace. And Delilah said to him, How dost thou say thou lovest me, when thy mind is not with me? Thou hast told me lies these 3 times, and wouldst not tell me wherein thy great strength lieth. And when she pressed him much, and continually hung upon him for many days, giving him no time to rest, his soul fainted away, and was wearied even until death. Then opening the truth of the thing, he said to her, The razor hath never come upon my head, for I am a Nazarite, that is to say, consecrated to God from my mother's womb. If my head be shaven, my strength shall depart from me, and I shall become weak, and shall be like other men. Then seeing that B had discovered to her all his mind, she said to the princes of the Philistines, saying, Come up this once more, for now he hath opened his heart to me. And they went up, taking with them the money which they had promised. But she made him sleep upon her knees, and lay his head in her bosom. And she called a barber, and shaved his 7 locks, and began to drive him away, and thrust him from her. For immediately his strength departed from him. And she said, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson. And awaking from sleep, he said in his mind, I will go out as I did before, and shake myself, not knowing that the Lord had departed from him. And that was from chapter 16 of the book of Judges in the Douay-Rheims translation. So we're faced here with a perennial issue, which is present in pretty much every community, and I've seen this increasingly within the Catholic community. And that's why I want to address it. It's always been a problem, but it's come to my attention now, and it needs to be dealt with. Both sides of the problem. So I'm going to start with the side that I think is less significant. These sorts of women that tart around. And I'm not aiming this at any particular woman, because honestly I can't think of one that I consider to be this. But they are about. I know because they've told me in real life, to my face. Because they know that I'm not fooled by it. At least some of them seem to think that I'm not fooled by it. I can admit that I've done things that I'm ashamed of as well. But it's transparently clear that these sorts of women who do these sorts of things, the kinds that play victim for a man, the kind that post those certain provocative kind of brainworms that will get a man to do something. Those sorts of women, they exist in pretty much every community, and they exist especially online. These sorts of women who deliberately provoke men to get attention, to sometimes get material things, but seldom to get sex. They exist everywhere, and it all comes out of this narcissism. The woman knows exactly what she is doing. If you get thirsty beaters and you aren't doing this, know that you're not included in this. Because this is a conscious behaviour. Other women know of this. And it's frankly shameful. And I'm going to address it here because it needs to be reminded for both sides that we are in a church. And our prime aim being in this church is divine union. Divine union with the Blessed Trinity. And the witnessing of the beatific vision as Christ promised. This is our aim. Our aim is not followers on Twitter. It is not DMs. It's not likes on Instagram pictures. It is the beatific vision. These women who do this, who try to gain attention in such dishonest and unpleasant ways, and I will mention yet again, I am not actually aiming this at any particular person. The latter I am. The only person that you screw over doing this is yourself. Because not only do we know from our own theologians, from our faith's very inception, and from common sense, that pride doth come before a fall. And this is all an exercise in growing one's ego for the woman. This is all just that. And we've seen it have fatal consequences for many of these women. Unfortunate examples of women dying trying to take selfies. People dying for really stupid reasons. And this has occurred since year dot, but we see it now especially with the growth of the net. So I would say to women who are attracted to this, and they will probably not listen to me, but I will say it anyway to balance out this video, because I know that the second lot will. The only person you fuck over doing this is yourself, long term. You may get all these DMs from men, but you invest in 1,000 men, and you will lose sight of securing a future for yourself. You will be constantly bombarded with the dopamine-laden messages of these men. You'll look back when you're 40 or 50, and you'll think, what the fuck was I doing? And now to go on to the people who I think actually will listen to me, because my audience is majority male, and they need to hear this. Now for the part that I think I can have an influence on, because judging by the numbers of my channel, I know for a fact that there is going to be one of these sorts of men watching. I'm going to screenshot a particularly egregious example and show examples from the tweets, but just by sheer numbers I know that some of you are going to be doing similar things. You are going to be doing similar things to this. The kinds of men who deliberately pursue these sorts of women. Who deliberately pursue these sorts of women for whatever reason, because they desire a closeness to them, out of some genuine desire in their heart, because they purely want sex, or because they just want attention, just like those Thots. These sorts of men that exist. And frankly, they are a far more pathetic sight than the first category, because the first category would not exist without the second. You don't go and seek attention if there's nobody offering it. They wouldn't exist if it weren't for thirsty beaters, to be honest. It's also incredibly lacking in virtue. It makes you an effeminate to do this, in the most literal sense of the word, because it's ultimately driven in a lot of men. Obviously, if you're friends with women like this, and you keep them at arm's length, then sure, there's nothing wrong with that. But many men don't do that. Many do it because they have no control over their passions, particularly those of a concupiscible nature. I will let you Google that so you can learn something. So, I just want to make it clear. Those sorts of men, and I know that you are watching, You can message 50 of these women a day and want a relationship, and you can be blinded by feelings. A lot of men are. I have been. You can be blinded by it, but you're wasting your time. This isn't a quantity-based game if you aim to make some sort of relationship out of it, which many of you do, even if you don't admit it to yourself. This isn't a quantity-based game, it's a quality-based game. Even if you go 3-4 years without messaging a single woman like this, and you work on yourself and you find that one good one, because, believe it or not, they actually exist. I know because I meet them on a regular basis. If you invest in yourself and overcome this effeminacy, and you know that you have it, I've seen from my polls, like, 80% of you haven't overcome porn? If you overcome this, then you'll be able to resist this, and you will lead a better life. One good woman will get you further than 100 whores. Go and read Proverbs. Proverbs has some great examples of this. In fact, Proverbs warns more about these sorts of women than it does about working hard and being lazy. 3 times before the main Proverbs start, as opposed to 1 time regarding hard work. Do not spend your time with these sorts of women if you have those sorts of intentions. As I say, being friends with them is fine, as long as you keep it that way. And I'm going to be making videos about controlling that concupiscible appetite, because we all suffer from it, because we are all imperfect. We're all imperfect, and we all need to reach divine union, as I've just said. And that comes through the pursuit of perfection. And honestly, on Catholic Twitter, regarding how certain people talk about women, American lad, and how certain things are overly memed in that sort of way, it's not something that people are truly striving for, and you need to do it. Pray more. God can help you, because God is infinite. Just do that and overcome it. We're not here to fantasize about how beautiful the Latin Mass is. We're not here to cry the praises of particular bishops or cardinals and despise others. We're not here to get YouTube subscribers. We aren't here to get Twitter followers. We are not here to do all of these things, because these things are of the world. We could lose these overnight. One man can completely change his opinion, and if you deify him, then you're just going to be destroyed. That's why we worship God. The one thing that won't leave us is virtue. If you don't pursue virtue, you'll be enslaved by other things. And I mean, I'm not entirely sure why men thirst over Twitter. I've never done it over social media. But I suspect it's a mixture of your own narcissism, which needs to be prayed away, and your own concupiscence, as I've said. And I'm saying this especially to Catholic Twitter, both sides, because I see this a lot, and it really actually quite annoys me. It annoys me because I realise that the land that we live in is built by men like this. The tone of the civilization is affected by the morality of the people within it. And what I see from the group that is supposed to be the tip of the spear really, really worries me. Now, this does not mean that I am perfect in any way, but I know that I am striving towards moral perfection. For that is the aim of, life, basically. To develop in virtue so that we may obtain divine union. And the sooner that you guys remember that, and stop LARPing about, like certain people who like to call, John Paul II a Muslim, and stuff like that, the sooner that you stop crying about the Novus Ordo Church, the sooner that you stop complaining about James Martin, although there is a lot to complain about, these things aren't illegitimate problems. The sooner you do that, the more that you focus on praying and sorting out your own virtue, the better for everyone around you. I hope this has been useful. Thanks for watching. Also, I just noticed, listening through this again, that it sounds like I'm saying that John Paul II is a Muslim. I'm not, just for clarification. We all make mistakes. I'm just saying that Novus Ordo churches can sometimes make mistakes, and James Martin isn't exactly the greatest influence. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to continue to support this work and get access to dozens of hours of content, please subscribe to me on Patreon at patreon.com/renaissances. And if you'd like to join the community, there's a link in the description. Thank you.